Death thought himself above everyone and everything. One day, he would learn the truth. No one was above dying. Not even death. Grim growled in the back of his throat. I know now where your son gets his most irritating qualities. Darion didn't comment on that. How goes his training? Slowly. He lacks focus. Not to mention, whoever blocked his powers did a great job of it. Unlocking them isn't as easy as it should be. Some of that is because he hasn't been really hurt yet. His mother has wrapped him in a layer of love so thick it's hard to breach. The kid needs tragedy in his life. Without that, it's impossible to push his hatred and make him act on it. He needs someone to hate with a burning passion. Darion curled his lip. He couldn't afford for his son to be slow. The sooner Nick learned how to hate, the sooner he'd learn to kill, and the quicker Darion would be able to leave this place and have the freedom he'd craved since the moment of his birth. Unlike his son, he'd always known who and what he was. His mother had purposefully conceived him to destroy his own father and to buy her freedom from the dark primal gods she served. From that moment of his birth, he'd been breastfed venom and suckered on bitter hatred for everyone and everything. As soon as his powers had manifested and he'd killed his father, his mother had sold him to Noir to be enslaved and used by the sadistic god who'd wanted to destroy his enemies and take over the human realm. Darion still had nightmares over that quaint experience. If he'd ever possessed a shred of decency or humanity, his time spent in Asmodea had destroyed it. And those gory centuries spent there were why he'd gutted his mother the instant he'd escaped Noir's custody, why he would never allow himself to be enslaved again, not to anyone, even Grim. But Grim wanted to see the apocalypse he'd been created for. And like Darion, Grim didn't want to be in a subservient role when he delivered it. He wanted to lead. Darion could respect that. However, he didn't really care about Grim. He wasn't capable of caring. At least, that was the lie he told himself. You want your apocalypse, I want my revenge. Train my boy and deliver his powers to me. I need them. Grim nodded. If you would allow me to kill his mother. No, Darion growled. You harm her and I will rain down a hell on you that you can't even imagine. Grim's eyes snapped fire from the fury he kept repressed because he knew better than to show it to Darion. Not even Grim would get away with that. Fine, but you better remember what I've done to work this little miracle for you. I want a piece of Nick when all is said and done. You can have it. Now go and don't let me see you here again. Darion got up and left the room. His original plan had been to use his son to rebuild his army. But last year, as Nick's powers had grown, he'd felt his own start to wane, something he couldn't allow anyone to know. There couldn't be two Malachis in existence. It was forbidden. But if he could unlock Nick's powers and have death kill his son before Darion lost all of his, he could feed on Nick's heart and absorb his powers too. It would give him the strength of two Malachis. Then no one would ever be able to defeat him. He wouldn't have to fear Noir or anything ever again. That was what he lived for. Then he'd be able to find the ones who'd cursed him to this existence and end that curse once and for all. But first, Nick had to die. After finally being liberated from his detention, Nick wanted to hunt down whoever had humiliated Brenna and beat them until they begged for mercy. Never in his life had he been angrier. His stomach knotted. He headed into the gym to meet up with Cody, Madog, Caleb, and LaShonda. The son of two scientists, Madog was one of the smartest people Nick had ever met. The kid knew something about everything. And like Nick, he felt invisible unless one of their resident bullies needed someone to kick or shove into a locker. Just under 6 feet tall, Madog